You're watching DD India News Hour, India's voice to the world. I'm Siddharth Bharadwaj, and coming up in the next hour, Israeli army releases a video set to show weapons inside Gaza kindergarten. Israel demonstrates new Arrow missile defense system. Second India-Australia 2+2 defence and foreign ministerial dialogue set to take place in New Delhi on November 20th. Ministers expected to discuss a wide range of strategic, defence and security issues. 30th Asia-Pacific Economic Cooperation Economic Leaders meeting concludes in San Francisco with an adoption of Golden Gate Declaration on creating a resilient and sustainable future for all. OpenAI sacked Sam Altman as the CEO and co-founder of the company. The Israeli army on Friday released footage of what it said are shoulder-fired missiles, mortar shells and weapons located inside a kindergarten in Gaza. According to the caption provided by the army in its Telegram post, its troops located dozens of mortar shells that were hidden by Hamas in a kindergarten in the northern Gaza Strip. Earlier this week, at Gaza's biggest hospital, Al-Shifa, Israel said its forces had found in 2 days of searching a vehicle with a large number of weapons and an underground structure it called a Hamas tunnel shaft. The Israeli Defense Ministry released footage on Friday demonstrating what it says is the state of an Arrow missile defense system. The footage is said to show missiles launching to successfully intercept a target moving towards Israel over the Red Sea earlier this week. Israel's military said on Tuesday it had used Arrow to intercept a missile in the vicinity of the Red Sea after air raid sirens had sounded in the southern port city of Eilat. The military said the projectile did not cross into the Israeli territory and did not say who had fired it. Yemen's Iran-aligned Houthi movement said they had launched a batch of ballistic missiles on various Israel targets, including in Eilat. The Houthi movement has launched repeated missile and drone attacks on Israel since the Hamas assault on Israel on October 7, all of which have either been shot down or fell short. Israel has said that its troops will strike Hamas targets wherever they can find them, including in the south of the Gaza Strip.
We are determined to advance our operation. It will happen wherever Hamas exists, including in the south of the Strip. It will happen at the time, place and conditions that are best for the military.
Israel has said that its fighter jets struck terror targets in response to Hezbollah fire towards Israeli territory. IDF said that the targets included terrorist infrastructure, sites, operational command centers, and military posts in which Hezbollah terrorists operated. The first consignment of fuel entered Gaza from Egypt late on Friday after Israel agreed to a U.S. request to allow limited deliveries to end a communications blackout that has halted 8 convoys for 2 days. The U.S. government has said the agreement amounts to around 140,000 litres every 2 days, 120,000 of which will be used to fuel aid vehicles and other humanitarian efforts, with the remainder to power communication networks. Meanwhile, telecom services have been partially restored in Gaza after the entry of limited quantity of fuel through UN or WA. All right, we are joined by our correspondent Mia Alberti from Beirut. Mia, what's the latest you're getting for us?
Look, we're looking at a dire situation in the Al-Shifa hospital this morning. Just a few hours ago, the doctors and the civilians there were asked by the Israeli Defense Forces to evacuate the hospital due to an imminent attack. This was according to the Ministry of Health in Gaza, saying that, and also from the doctors and from organizations there, saying that they not only they have listened from speakers, Israelis saying that they have to evacuate the hospitals, and so in the last, and they would have to evacuate in the time of 2 hours. So that leaves them roughly half an hour to go at the moment that we are speaking. And the pictures that we are seeing from this hospital are absolutely devastating. We're seeing doctors running with Rolling down the street, the destroyed streets. They are saying that they are seeing bodies on the street. Doctors are saying that they are having to leave patients behind because some of these patients cannot walk. These patients are in a dire state and cannot be transferred, or there's not enough beds to transport them with, or simply there is no access. Now also the premature babies that we have been talking about, those are still in the hospital. The Ministry of Health in Gaza said that they are coordinating with the Red Cross to try and evacuate those babies. We're also hearing from the Ministry of Health and from civilians in southern Gaza that they have been warned through leaflets to evacuate Khan Yunis, which is where most of these people were told by the Israeli forces that it would be safe to be there. Now they're being told to evacuate. And so the question from most of the people in Al-Shifa Hospital, which is one of the last ones, or the last one operating in Gaza City, meaning that all of these doctors and patients will have to move probably by foot kilometers until they find another hospital in the south. But now the question is, where do they go? Because apparently in the south is not safe anymore, with Israeli Defense Forces asking people there to evacuate as well. Now, the Israeli Defense Forces said in a statement that they did not told the people in the Al-Shifa hospital to evacuate. Rather, they say that that they received the request from the director of this hospital in Gaza to evacuate the hospital. We saw in the past days these patients and doctors trying to evacuate the hospital and being met by Israeli snipers. So in this statement, the Israeli Defense Forces said, quote, that at no point did the IDF ask to evacuate patients or medical teams.
Okay, Mia, if you've just said that IDF is saying that they have not said the people in Al-Shifa hospital to evacuate, but why were people evacuating from Al-Shifa hospital then, and how's the situation there right now? If any updates you can get for us?
Sorry, could you repeat your question? I didn't quite get it.
Okay, I was saying that IDF has said that they have not told the people there in Al-Shifa hospital to evacuate. Then why were the people evacuating the hospital? And how's the situation there right now? If you could get us some updates.
Yes, I got it now. They have heard from the speakers in northern Gaza to evacuate. They were told by the Israelis to evacuate, and that's what they are doing. They are trying to evacuate those patients that can be moved. Many of them cannot even walk. Again, like I told you, most of the streets are destroyed. Ambulances don't have fuel to operate, and so these doctors and patients are being moved from the hospital by walking kilometers until southern Gaza, which is supposedly the only safe place. But this is very different from what the IDF is saying, as you mentioned, and as I mentioned before, they have said that they did not order this evacuation.
Okay, and Mia, you're in Beirut right now. Can you just tell us the situation on the Israel and Lebanon border right now?
Well, we are continuing to see, I think we can call it an escalation of this cross-border violence. You know, since the beginning of this conflict, we've been talking about if Hezbollah and Israel are going to start a full-fledged war, and they have not. And most experts say that what is happening in the border is still a game of deterrence to try and stop the other one from continuing further. But from the residents in southern Lebanon, there is an ongoing war. We are seeing at least 12 civilians have been killed, many houses have been destroyed, more than 40,000 olive trees have been burned by incendiary tools that Lebanese authorities accuse Israel of using, and Israel has also said that it had used them. And so we are seeing these crops completely destroyed. Those that haven't been destroyed, the farmers cannot get to them, and this is an important part of the economy there in the south. And we're also seeing tens of thousands of Lebanese being displaced, many of them taking shelter here in Beirut, in the mountains, where people are, some people are opening their houses for them to stay. So for the people in southern Lebanon, this is already a war, although the Lebanese government's position continued to be that it is not interested in a war with Israel, and Israel saying the same, but also saying that it is not afraid to do to Beirut what it has done to Gaza, which of course just prompted a lot of criticism from this side of the border.
All right, on that note, thank you so much, Mia, for joining in. Turkish President Recep Tayyip Erdogan met with German Chancellor Olaf Scholz on Friday, where discussion on the Israel-Hamas conflict took the center stage. Both the leaders were meeting in hopes to find common ground on trade, migration and defense, despite views that are far apart on ongoing crisis in Ukraine and Israel. During a joint press conference, German Chancellor Olaf Scholz showed his support to Israel and said that Israel has a right to self-defense.
Weil es unsere Nachbarregion ist, kann das, was dort geschieht.
Israel has a right to self-defense. It was a terrible, brutal attack carried out by Hamas. On children, on the elderly, on peace activists, on those who have campaigned for reconciliation between Israel and the citizens of Gaza. For example, on young people celebrating. And that is why it is unacceptable that there is still a great danger of rockets being fired at Israel. And that is what the right of self-defense is all about. At the same time, it is of course important to use every opportunity to reduce the number of civilian casualties, and to bear this in mind. In everything we do, we should act accordingly.
2016 eine, wie ich.
While Turkish President Tayyip Erdogan called for humanitarian ceasefire in Gaza.
Boşta olsak bu kadar rahat konuşamayız.
We also need to discuss another important point. How can we solve the problem? In other words, a humanitarian ceasefire. To what extent can Turkey make a contribution? Can Germany make a contribution? And how can we take these steps together? That is important now. And are we prepared to do this or not?
Ama bütün bunların yanında
The United States announced new sanctions against Kataib Sayed al-Subhada, KSS, and its Secretary General Hashim Finyan Rahim al-Siraji, designating them as specially designated global terrorists. U.S. Secretary of State Antony Blinken in a statement said that KSS terrorist activity has threatened the lives of both U.S. and global coalition to defeat ISIS personnel in Iraq and Syria. 6 individuals affiliated to Kataib Hezbollah group have also been sanctioned by the U.S. Treasury Department. Well, still to come on DD India News Hour. Golden Gate Declaration adopted at Asia-Pacific Economic Cooperation Economic Meeting. Russia launches major drone attack on Ukraine, infrastructure hit. Sudan immediately ends UN mission in war-torn country. Well, you're watching DD India News Hour. I am Siddharth Bharadwaj. And now, the Golden Gate Declaration on creating a resilient and sustainable future for all was adopted on Friday after the 30th Asia-Pacific Economic Cooperation Economic Leaders meeting concluded in San Francisco. The APEC Economic Leaders vowed to accelerate the transition towards low and zero emission vehicles, sustainable aviation fuels, and low and zero emission maritime shipping and port decarbonization. The leaders also reaffirmed their commitment to create an enabling, inclusive, open, fair, and non-discriminatory digital ecosystem for business and consumers. Yoon Suk-yeol, President of South Korea, and Fumio Kishida, Prime Minister of Japan, announced on Friday that they will work together on clean energy supply chains and quantum computing, as well as other cutting-edge technologies. The roundtable held at Stanford University on the sidelines of APEC Summit was the latest in a series of efforts to strengthen relations between the three countries, which have been in deep difficulty for some time. Japanese Prime Minister Kishida said their relationship was in deep difficulty until they embarked on a campaign to improve it, meeting more than half a dozen times this year. Both the countries said the science and technology will be a key part of their relationship in the future.
Until early this year, the Japan-Korea relationship was in deep difficulty. However, in March, President Yoon and I decided to resume shuttle diplomacy between our two countries. The resolve of ourselves as top leaders drastically transformed the relationship between Japan and the ROK.
International Monetary Fund Managing Director Kristalina Georgieva has said the meeting between US President Joe Biden and Chinese President Xi Jinping is a badly needed signal that the world needs to cooperate more. Biden and Xi agreed on Wednesday to open a presidential hotline, resume military-to-military communications, and work to curb fentanyl production, showing tangible progress in their first face-to-face talks in a year. The latest in the Russia-Ukraine war, both sides claim to have attacked one another, while Russian air defense forces say that they have shot down 3 MiG-29 fighters from the Ukrainian side and intercepted 22 HIMARS rockets and 198 drones. Ukraine states that its forces carried out strikes on rally points with presence of Russian military personnel and equipment, destroying an air defense facility and ammunition depot. In a briefing on Friday, the Russian Defense Ministry declared that its army repelled attacks of the Ukrainian army in many directions and attacked Ukrainian artillery system and command post. Well, moving on, Ukraine and the United States will hold a special military industry conference in December. Kyiv is ramping up efforts to produce its own weapons amid concerns that supplies from West might be faltering. In his evening address, Zelensky said Kyiv and Washington were actively progressing on the joint arms production issue.
During my visit to Washington, President Biden and I reached specific agreements on actions we can take together. This will undoubtedly strengthen both Americans and Ukrainians as well as our partners. Collaborative production always strengthens. In December of this year, a special conference will take place, bringing together Ukrainian and American industries, government officials, and other state actors, all those involved in organizing our defense.
Ukrainian frontline medics at a stabilization point in Donetsk region provide the first treatment for wounded soldiers. The flow of patients is severely testing the team. Deployed with 47 separate mechanized brigade, the medics say there are not enough trained medics, including trauma specialists, and to cope with the workload.
We manage here at our stabilization point, but when there is a huge influx of wounded, the work is very intense. All staff are involved. So much depends on the volunteers. Medical supplies are provided by the brigade, but a huge part of all we have has been supplied by volunteers. Things would be very difficult without them.
Russian President Vladimir Putin said on Friday that Russia's economic growth was set to exceed 3% in 2023, slightly better than previous official forecasts. Russia's economy shrank 2.1% in 2022 as the West imposed sweeping sanctions against Russia over conflict in Ukraine. Last month, the central bank estimated 2023 GDP growth at 2.2 to 2.7%.
The chairman of the government has reported that for the last month, the economic growth was 5.5% of GDP. By the end of the year, it will be over 3%. We carefully said this all the time. It will be 3.7%, 2.5%, 2.8%. Now we confidently say it will be over 3%.
Finland ordered the closure of 4 border crossings with Russia as the government sought to stem an influx of asylum seekers that it says was caused by Moscow. Finland shares a 1,340-kilometer border with Russia that also serves as the EU's external border. According to the border guard, about 300 asylum seekers have entered Finland this week, most of whom are from Iraq, Yemen, Somalia and Syria. The Finnish government has accused Moscow of sending migrants to the crossings over its decision to boost defense cooperation with the US. Finland has also sent military aid to Ukraine. And the International Court of Justice has ordered Azerbaijan to let ethnic Armenians who fled the Nagorno-Karabakh region in September return and ensure the safety of the remaining Armenians in the enclave. However, Azerbaijan's foreign ministry says it has already pledged to ensure all residents' safety and security regardless of their origin, and also that it has not forced the ethnic Armenians to leave Karabakh. Almost the entire Armenian population of Karabakh fled after Azerbaijan attacked the enclave earlier this year. Now, Australia's government has said that it has expressed serious concerns to China after an unsafe and unprofessional interaction between an Australian Navy vessel and Chinese warship left Australian military divers injured. Defence Minister Richard Marles said the HMAS Toowoomba, a long-range frigate, was concluding a diving operation in Japan's exclusive economic zone on November 14 to clear fishing nets from its propellers when the incident occurred. He said despite the Australian vessel notifying the Chinese warship of the diving operation and requesting that it keep clear, the destroyer approached at a close range. Medical assessments found minor injuries to the divers likely caused by the destroyer's sonar. The president of Philippines and China held talks with the aim of finding solutions to ease tensions in the South China Sea and re-establish the access of Filipino fishermen to fishing grounds. On the fringes of the APEC summit in San Francisco, Marcos told reporters that the open sea lanes and airways over the South China Sea are essential to maintaining peace. The Philippines and China must continue to communicate. Marcos said he voiced concern over incidents between Chinese and Philippine vessels, including one collision also raised the plight of Filipino fishermen. Now, Sudan has informed the UN chief of the immediate end of the United Nations political mission in the war-torn country, according to a letter circulated in the Security Council. Sudan's foreign minister informed Antonio Guterres of the decision of the government of Sudan to terminate the United Nations Integrated Transition Assistance Mission in Sudan with immediate effect. The mission has employed hundreds of civilian workers in Sudan since 2020. However, Khartoum said it would continue to work constructively with the United Nations. Pedro Sanchez has been sworn in for a new term as Spain's Prime Minister in a ceremony at Royal Palace in Madrid. To clinch his fresh mandate, Sanchez was forced to make a controversial deal with Catalan separatist parties, speaking vast protests sparking in Spanish cities. DD India's Giles Gibson reports.
This was the final ceremonial step for Pedro Sanchez after weeks of tense negotiations going on behind the scenes to try to clinch this fresh mandate as Spanish Prime Minister. What we saw at the Zarzuela Royal Palace in central Madrid was Pedro Sanchez swearing an oath of office and then shaking the hand and posing for some photographs with Spain's King Felipe. Now, this fresh mandate was secured by Sanchez in a vote in the Spanish Parliament on Thursday, and he was able to get over the line due to support, of course, from his own Socialist Party, as well as the left-wing grouping Sumar, and crucially, two Catalan separatist parties. Now, the price of their support in that vote was a draft bill that's been put forward which would give amnesty to hundreds of people who could face prosecution for their role in efforts to push for independence for the region of Catalonia. Now, this draft bill has been widely condemned by opposition parties. For example, there's been some very strong words from Alberto Núñez Feijóo, who is the leader of the Partido Popular, or the People's Party, and who was Sanchez's main rival to become Spanish Prime Minister during the elections that we saw over the course of the summer. Feijóo saying that Sanchez is guilty of pathological ambition in making this deal with these two Catalan separatist parties. Since that legislation was announced, we've also seen rolling protests on the streets of Spanish cities, with thousands of people coming out onto the streets of not just the capital Madrid, but also other cities, including Seville and Malaga. And what we are expecting over the course of the coming weeks is that as Sanchez tries to get this draft legislation approved by Parliament, that those protests will only intensify. Giles Gibson in Rome, reporting for DD India.
Well, let's take a look at other stories making news around the world. Italian trade unions mobilized tens of thousands of people in support of a national day of strike that challenged the government over its 2024 budget. Italy's main national labor unions criticized the draft budget for threatening the well-being of workers and proposing measures that would limit their right to strike to address grievances. A 63-year-old security guard working at a psychiatric hospital was fatally shot by a suspect in New Hampshire, United States. Authorities have said that the suspect was shot dead by a state police trooper assigned to the facility. All patients at the hospital were safe. And renowned Japanese Buddhist philosopher Baisaku Aikida died aged 95. He was the longtime spiritual leader of the lay Buddhist organization known abroad for its association with celebrities and the home for its influence on politics. Residents in the Grindavik town of Iceland stay on alert as concerns of a possible volcanic eruption continues to loom large. The town has been witnessing intense earthquakes since last week, prompting authorities to evacuate nearly 4,000 people from Grindavik. Still to come on DD India News Hour. Second India-Australia 2+2 defence and foreign ministerial dialogue in New Delhi. ChatGPT maker OpenAI fires CEO Sam Altman. Indian President inaugurates international conference cum exhibition on aerospace and aviation.
Shagato to West Bengal, India's cultural epicenter. West Bengal invites you to share its richness, to be united as one family with one shared vision of building a better tomorrow.
You're watching DD India News Hour. I'm Siddharth Bharadwaj, and let's have a look at the headlines once again. Israeli army releases video said to show weapons inside Gaza kindergarten. Israel demonstrates new Arrow missile defense system. Second India-Australia 2+2 defense and foreign ministerial dialogue set to take place in New Delhi on November 20th. Ministers expected to discuss a wide range of strategic, defense and security issues. 30th Asia-Pacific Economic Cooperation Economic Leaders meeting concludes in San Francisco with adoption of Golden Gate Declaration on creating a resilient and sustainable future for all. Now, just hours after ChatGPT maker OpenAI's CEO Sam Altman was ousted by the company's board, the news came that the company's co-founder and president, Greg Brockman, would also be quitting his role. Brockman announced his departure on X. OpenAI earlier also announced that Brockman was supposed to step down from the board's chairman role. Earlier, for the Sam Altman, the company said the board lost confidence in Altman's ability to lead. It also said that OpenAI's chief technology officer, Mira Murthy, will now serve as interim CEO, adding that it will conduct a formal search for a permanent CEO. The White House accused Elon Musk of repeating a hideous anti-Semitic lie on his social media site X this week, calling it an abhorrent promotion of anti-Semitic and racist hate that runs against our core values in Americans. Representatives from Musk or S could not immediately be released for comment on White House statement. X earlier declined to comment on Musk's post, which endorsed a post that falsely claimed members of the Jewish community were stoking hatred against white people. Outcry over unchecked anti-Semitic content and commentary on X, some of it endorsed by the platform's owner Musk, reached a tipping point on Friday, with large advertisers such as Apple, IBM and Disney pulling ads and the White House chastising the billionaire. Meanwhile, several Tesla stake and shareholders also spoke out against Musk, who is the chief executive officer of the electric car maker, with some saying he should be suspended from his post. A United States lawmaker could be thrown out of Congress in coming weeks after he was hit by a resolution on Friday to expel him. A report by the bipartisan House of Representatives Ethics Committee investigation George Santos's conduct details substantial evidence showing the first-term congressman violated federal criminal laws. Benji Hire has more.
At nearly every opportunity, George Santos placed his desire for private gain above his duty to uphold the Constitution, the law and ethical principles, this report reads. Now, a growing number of his colleagues who opposed a previous effort to boot him from office say they will support his ousting if they get a chance to vote on it again. One representative arguing the New York congressman is, quote, unfit to serve. That change of opinion follows damning proof that Santos blatantly stole from his own campaign, spending the money on Botox treatments, luxury fashion brands, trips to Las Vegas, even purchases from the adult content site OnlyFans. His removal would bookend a remarkable, often mystifying, short stint in Congress. He'd become the 6th lawmaker ever to be dismissed from the House, the first without having been convicted. Mr. Santos has already been indicted on charges of conspiracy, false statements, identity theft and credit card fraud. He pleaded not guilty last month to an array of corruption charges and called this report a politicised smear. Santos, who's a self-confessed terrible liar, who has in the past admitted to making up details about his upbringing and his education, says in light of this probe, he won't seek a second term or run for re-election next November, but he's refused to step down before then. Benji Hire in Washington, reporting for DD India.
And dozens of Venezuelan migrants take temporary shelter in camps under Mexico City roadway bridge, waiting for a permission to continue their journey to the US-Mexico border. Many migrants are in search for a makeshift accommodation before resuming their path to the US. The migrants are making appointments through the US government's app to request for asylum. Many of these migrants are fleeing poverty and political instability in their homelands. UN Human Rights is closely monitoring the ongoing conflict between Myanmar's military government and the anti-military armed groups. Several hundred soldiers have also reportedly chosen to lay down their weapons, and thousands of people from Myanmar are fleeing to take refuge from the fighting. Addressing a press conference, UN Human Rights spokesperson said that all parties should strictly respect international human rights law, particularly to protect civilians.
It is essential that all those captured are treated humanely. Reprisals are absolutely forbidden. Individual soldiers are not collectively responsible for crimes and human rights violations that have been committed by the military. amidst rapidly changing circumstances on the ground, it is imperative that all parties strictly respect international human rights law and international humanitarian law, particularly to protect civilians.
Let's now get you some breaking news. India will be holding the virtual G20 Leaders Summit on 22nd of November this year. It will be chaired by Prime Minister Narendra Modi. Leaders of all G20 members, including the chair of the African Union, as well as 9 guest countries and heads of 11 international organizations have been invited. The virtual summit will take forward key select outcomes and action points from the New Delhi G20 summit and will also review developments since then. This is a breaking news. India will host virtual G20 meet on 22nd of November, and the meeting will be chaired by Prime Minister Narendra Modi. Leaders of all G20 meeting. India will host virtual G20 meet on 22nd of November. This is the breaking news we've got for you. Review of developments since New Delhi G20 summit and push for effective implementation of various G20 decisions. The summit will be chaired by Prime Minister Narendra Modi, and the second India-Australia 2+2 Defence and Foreign Ministerial Dialogue is scheduled to take place in New Delhi on November 20th. During this meeting, Indian Defence Minister Rajnath Singh and External Affairs Minister Dr. S. Jaishankar will hold dialogue with their Australian counterparts, where they will discuss a wide range of strategic, defence and security issues. Rajnath Singh will have bilateral meeting with Deputy Prime Minister and Defence Minister Richard Marles, as Jaishankar will hold the 14th Foreign Ministerial Framework Dialogue on 21st of November with Foreign Minister Wong. The 14th Foreign Ministerial Framework Dialogue will take stock of cooperation under the Comprehensive Strategic Partnership and exchange views on regional and global issues of mutual interest. India's President Draupadi Murmu inaugurated the International Conference cum Exhibition on Aerospace and Aviation in 2047 held in the national capital, New Delhi today. The two-day exhibition commemorates 75 years of excellence of the Aeronautical Society of India. It included the release of a compendium on India's 75 years of aerospace and aviation journey, as well as the Vision Document 2047. Around 200 industries and MSMEs, including more than 75 startups, to showcase indigenous capabilities at the exhibition.
I have been told that this conference is a milestone in the boundless world of aviation, showcasing cutting-edge and pioneering technologies and visionary insights into aviation industry's future. I am happy to know that some of the highlights of this conference include issues such as green initiatives by aero industries, the impact of artificial intelligence, robotics, and machine learning of avionics, human capital development and infrastructure growth, empowering women in the sector, and encouraging startups for creative disruptions.
Addressing the event, President Murmu highlighted India's space mission achievements.
Whether it is the fate of successful completion of the Mars mission or showcasing the end-to-end capability in safe landing and roving near the moon's south pole, a place considered beyond human endeavor, India has proved that it has the willpower, potential and capacity to accomplish what it sets out to achieve.
Indian Minister of State for Science and Technology, Dr. Jitendra Singh, who was one of the guests of honor at the Aerospace and Aviation in 2047 exhibition, hailed India's aeronautics journey.
The journey of independent India coincides with the journey of Aeronautics Society of India. So Aeronautics Society of India, its members have been a witness to the growth story of India. Within 3 years, we have more than 150 space startups. The first generation of them have already turned into entrepreneurs.
Moving on to some assembly elections related updates, Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi held a public rally in the poll-bound western state of Rajasthan today, slamming the Congress government. The Prime Minister said that the party has sent the state to the top in the number of crimes. PM Modi also questioned the state government's commitment to women's safety. Assembly elections to be held in Rajasthan on November 25 and counting of votes will be done on December 3rd.
कांग्रेस जहां जहां आती है वहां वहां आतंकवादी, अपराधी और दंगाई बेलगाम हो जाते हैं। साथियों, कांग्रेस ने राजस्थान की महिलाओं के विश्वास को भी चकनाचूर कर दिया। जो मुख्यमंत्री खुद कहे कि महिलाएं रेप के फर्जी मामले दर्ज करवाती है, क्या वो महिलाओं की सुरक्षा कर सकते हैं?
India's Home Minister Amit Shah held a rally in Telangana today ahead of November 30th Assembly elections. He reiterated the promise of making a backward classes leader the Chief Minister if BJP comes into power, and would also provide free visit to Ram Temple in Indian city of Ayodhya. After completing his tour to Indonesia, Indian Defence Minister Rajnath Singh, on his way back home, paid a brief visit to Singapore on Saturday, where he paid tributes to Netaji Subhash Chandra Bose by laying a wreath at the Indian National Army marker there. Construction of a monument to commemorate the unknown warrior was proposed by Netaji himself, and he had laid the foundation stone in July 1945. In 1995, the National Heritage Board of Singapore erected the INA marker on the same spot as the original memorial. India's Minister for Communications, Electronics and IT, Ashwini Vaishnav, said that deepfake is a big issue, and government has recently issued notices to all the big social media forums to identify deepfakes and to remove those content.
Deepfakes is a big issue. It's a very big problem for all of us. We had recently issued notices to all the big social media platforms, asking them to take steps for identifying deepfakes, for removing those content. The social media platforms have responded. They are taking their actions, but we have told them to be more aggressive in this work. Also, we must notice that the safe harbor clause, which most of the social media platforms have been enjoying, that doesn't apply if the platforms do not take adequate steps for removing deep fakes from their platform.
The efforts to evacuate 40 trapped construction workers in a tunnel in northern Indian state of Uttarakhand have entered their 7th day. Some progress has been seen as a heavy-duty drilling machine penetrated 24 meters of rubble on the Char Dham route. The authorities have intensified the operation. An additional auger machine has been airlifted from Indore. The backup machine is expected to arrive at the accident site by Saturday. The new machine can drill at the speed of 5 meters per hour. The trapped workers have light and receive oxygen, food, water and medicines via a pipe and can communicate via walkie-talkie. The men have been stuck in the hillside tunnel in Uttarakhand state since Sunday morning after it caved in, but are safe, authorities said. Let's take a look at other stories making news. India's national capital, New Delhi, and neighbouring states continue to witness toxic smog, with the air quality index exceeding 450 in some areas. Farm fires raged in nearby states despite a court-ordered ban. A plan to make rain via cloud seeding to battle the smog has been pushed back due to unfavourable weather. The Indian Navy is going to host an inter-command ocean sailing race from the states of Kochi to Goa to encourage adventure at sea. The race is scheduled from 22nd to 26th of November 2023 under the aegis of Indian Naval Sailing Association based at Naval Headquarters, New Delhi. The much-awaited Indian festival of Chhath Puja is being celebrated with religious fervour. Today is the second day where devotees observe a waterless fast for 36 hours. As per Indian mythology, Chhath Puja festival is dedicated to the sun god and his sister. Still to come on DD India News Hour. SpaceX Starship set for a repeat test flight. Japan's funeral industry struggles to keep pace with rising deaths. You're watching DD India News Hour. I'm Siddharth Bharadwaj, and SpaceX's next-generation spacecraft Starship, developed to carry astronauts to the moon and beyond, was set for blast-off on Saturday for a repeat test launch from South Texas. 7 months after its first attempt to reach space ended with an explosion. The uncrewed launch was scheduled to take place during a 20-minute window beginning at 7 a.m. CST at SpaceX's Starbase site on the Gulf of Mexico. The mission's objective is to get Starship off the ground in Texas and into space just shy of reaching orbit, then plunge through Earth's atmosphere for a splashdown off Hawaii's coast. A successful test flight would mark a key step toward achieving SpaceX's ambition of producing a large, multi-purpose spacecraft capable of sending people and cargo back to the moon later this decade for NASA and ultimately to Mars. Well, you're watching DD India News Hour, and time now for sport, where Rohan Bopanna becomes the oldest player ever to reach the semi-finals of the ATP World Tour Finals. Bopanna and partner Matthew Ebden beat reigning Wimbledon champions Neil Skupski and Wesley Koolhof 6-4, 7-5 to advance to the last four stage. Incidentally, Rohan and Ebden had beaten the same opponents to win the Indian Wells title this year, which made Bopanna at 43 the oldest ATP Masters champion. India will face Australia in the final of the ICC Cricket World Cup 2023 after the latter beat South Africa by 3 wickets in the second semi-final at the Eden Gardens. Let's take a look at India's journey in the tournament so far.
Armed with a formidable batting unit and a strong bowling attack, India have stormed into the first World Cup final in 12 years after winning 10 games on the trot. The latest being a 70-run win over New Zealand in a thriller at the Wankhede Stadium. Here is a look at India's unbeaten journey into the World Cup final. Match 1, October 8, 2023. India vs Australia. India won by 6 wickets with 52 balls remaining. Match 2, October 11, 2023. India vs Afghanistan. India won by 8 wickets with 90 balls remaining. Match 3, October 14, 2023. India vs Pakistan. India won by 7 wickets with 117 balls remaining. Match 4, October 19, 2023. India vs Bangladesh. India won by 7 wickets with 51 balls remaining. Match 5, October 2023. India vs New Zealand. India won by 4 wickets with 12 balls remaining. Match 6, October 29, 2023. India vs England. India won by 100 runs. Match 7, November 2, 2023. India vs Sri Lanka. India won by 302 runs. Match 8, November 5, 2023. India vs South Africa. India won by 243 runs. Match 9, November 12, 2023. India vs Netherlands. India won by 160 runs. Match 10, November 15, 2023. Semi-final, India versus New Zealand. India won by 70 runs in Mumbai. Sports Desk, DD India.
Well, DD India correspondent Tapas Bhattacharya joins us live from Ahmedabad. Tapas, this clash is something we all are waiting for, entire India is waiting for, India versus Australia, and that too in world's biggest stadium, Narendra Modi Stadium. How's the atmosphere right now there?
Well, it's a dream sort of a, the whole thing has come out, the way it was supposed to be. Remember, 20 years back, India were up against Australia in 2003 World Cup in South Africa. They were beaten hammer and tongues, and now it's time for India to give them back in kind and to avenge that particular defeat. And remember, the current coach of Indian team, Rahul Dravid, was part of that playing 11, and I mean, he will find a lot of solace if India managed to beat Australia in this particular final. Interestingly, the last 3 World Cup finals that have been won by teams, it was done by the host nation. So India is on course if that trend continues. But again, as I mentioned, this is the 3rd time India will be aiming to lift that trophy. For Australia, they will be they will like to lift it in a 6th time. So if both the teams are even Steven on paper, India are on 10 games winning streak. Australia are 8 games winning streak. So nothing to separate them on paper at least. It will be interesting to see how both the teams come up against each other in the nerve-wracking final. Just to put it across, we are inside the stadium currently, and what I can tell you is that there is a lot of work going on. The Gujarat police is working day and night and making sure that no untoward incident take place. More than 6,000 Gujarat police personnel are deployed. As I mentioned, this is the largest cricket stadium in the world. More than 130,000 people will be, getting inside this stadium. So law and order situation is going to be of a prime importance. So for Gujarat police, they are, coming in large number to make sure that the whole of the stadium is manned with their presence, and that's one part of it. The other part is in the morning we met some of the fans. Remember, it's still a lot of time left. A match is going to start around 2 o'clock tomorrow, and yet people are thronging to the stadium, hoping against hope that they get one ticket at least to be part of history, and it's not happening. But it's colorful crowd outside. They're coming out in large number to cheer their team, and they said that they want to make a big they want to be there for their team. So Indian team is just going to be here in a short while from now. Already outside the stadium, a lot of crowd are coming in just to get a glimpse of their demigods. Remember, in India, cricket is not just a game; it's a religion, and the players are virtually considered a demigod. So they want to get just get a glimpse of their demigod. So a lot of people are outside of the stadium at the same time. Australia team will be practicing also in a short while from now on. So both the teams are currently working out their last-minute strategy, tactics to be absolutely dead sure when the first balls get going in this particular finale.
Well, definitely, you said it right, Tapas. Cricket is not just game in India, it's a religion, and security arrangements are tight, and why not? It's the finale of Cricket World Cup 2023, India versus Australia. Could you just update a bit on what pitch is saying, how the pitch is behaving?
Well, that's the interesting part. So we don't know yet which pitch both the teams will be playing. There is one pitch that India already played against Pakistan. We know that particular pitch. There is another pitch that we believe that's there. So we not too sure which one India will be playing.
All right.
But what I can tell you is that when we spoke to the team management, we got to know that, I mean, they're keeping their finger crossed. They want to play at any surface. They know that they have the bowling arsenal, they have the batting arsenal to succeed in any pitch condition. You take a close look at how Indian team has performed in the last 10 matches. If the batters have gone about their job, the bowlers have gone about their job, Mind you, KL Rahul, who has been drafted in as a wicketkeeper, has done exceptionally well in wicket-keeping position. So if you take a close look at how the team management works, they believe that they have the wherewithal, they have the resources to succeed in any kind of pitch, be it spin-friendly or be it pace-friendly. So there is a black soil pitch right across, and there is a red soil pitch also beside that. So one has to see. Tomorrow we will get to know more details. We will get to know which pitch India will be playing. Hopefully it will be the red soil pitch, because if it's a red soil pitch, Indian spinners will get much more purchase. But again, it's you should not think it over, because even Australia has Adam Zampa at their side. So if the pitch is turning a little more than it generally does, it might be a double-edged sword. As I mentioned, it's an ICC Cricket World Cup, so ICC keeps a very balanced approach. They want a pitch which will suit the pacers, the spinners, and stroke making. So we will hopefully we will get a very good pitch, and there won't be any sort of a controversy regarding that.
Definitely, but one thing's for sure, Tapas, the showdown promises to be an epic clash of cricketing titans. Thank you so much for joining in. Well, visitors are greeted by lighted tigers, peacocks and elephants at France's National Museum of Natural History. The theme for the show is biodiversity in jungle. Giant replicas of discrete animals have been displayed to showcase the importance they hold in the ecosystem. The light show will remain open till January 21st next year. All right, and that's all for this edition of DD India News Hour. But let us know your thoughts on the news of the day. You can connect with us on Facebook, X, formerly known as Twitter, and Instagram. We'll be back with more news as it breaks here on DD India. I'm Siddharth Bharadwaj from all of us here in Delhi. Thanks for watching DD India News Hour.